Every story has two sides. Most people never hear the second one. That's where we come in. The first side always sounds convincing until the second side walks through the door. My team of special investigators and I don't take anyone's word for it. We go looking, we dig. We find the version of events that never made it to your timeline. Your job? Sit on the jury. Drop your verdict in the comments. Because every case we bring you deserves a ruling from the people. I'm the Honorable Vale. This is the docket, and court is now in session. Case number 1003. A man who has been managing a serious genetic condition for most of his life, quietly, successfully, without telling the woman he loved. A woman who spent 15 years building a life alongside this man and his family, only to unravel in the face of something she never saw coming, something no one ever prepared her for. She says she left because he didn't defend her when it mattered most. He says she left because things got real. Both of them are carrying something heavy into this room today. The first voice speaks, then the second voice, after which the jury decides. That is you. Court is in session.
I have sickle cell disease. For those who don't know, it's a genetic condition where the blood cells don't form correctly. It causes episodes of severe, excruciating pain called crises. The best way I can describe it is like glass shards ripping through every blood vessel. They can be triggered by cold, dehydration, stress, or physical exertion. Mine have been triggered by cold for as long as I can remember. The last crisis I had before this one was over 12 years ago. 12 years. I had managed this condition so well for so long that it had become a background detail of my life, not a defining one. Natalie and I met 15 years ago in high school. We were friends first. The kind of friends who become so close that the line between friendship and something more is almost invisible. We became a couple 7 years ago. By that point, she was already part of my family. My family paid for her trips with us. Holidays, vacations, winters in warmer climates. She was there for all of it. My family loved her. I loved her. I want to be honest about the sickle cell. I did not hide it from her as an act of deception. I managed it. I had twice yearly checkups. I was careful about triggers. It had been 12 years since my last crisis. It was not something I thought about every day, and it was not something I felt defined our relationship. I understand now that she may have needed to know. I am sitting with that. In November, Natalie asked me to come to New York for a project she needed support with. I agreed. It was a recognition dinner celebrating outstanding employees at her company. She had made the list. I was proud of her. I wanted to be there. The event was postponed 3 times. The new date landed on one of the coldest nights in the year. I underestimated the weather. 15 degrees Fahrenheit. That is -9 degrees Celsius. For someone whose crises are triggered by cold. That was a serious miscalculation. One I did not fully register until it was too late. By 2:30 in the morning, the pain was unbearable. I called my family doctor. He told me to go to the hospital. Natalie was there when the ambulance came. My family arrived shortly after. I was in the hospital for 5 days. I know the hospital stay was difficult for Natalie. I could see it on her face, something beyond concern, something that looked closer to fear. I did not fully understand it at the time. I was in pain. I was managing my own fear. I was not able to be the person she needed me to be in those 5 days. When I came home, things were different. There was a distance between us I didn't know how to close. I tried to manage my own recovery in the way I always have, quietly, independently. I didn't want to be a burden. I have never wanted to be a burden. That is not a new thing for me. It is how I have always handled this condition. My family and I took a trip after discharge to a warmer climate. Natalie was not invited. It was the first time in years she had been excluded, and I understand that it hurt her. The timing was wrong. I did not advocate for her the way I should have. After we arrived, my family came up with me to help unpack. My sister, overwhelmed with my condition, blamed her for what happened to me. That was wrong. I do not believe Natalie caused my crisis, but I did not defend her in that moment. I know that. I have thought about it every day since. I was caught off guard. I was still fragile from the hospitalization. To our surprise, Natalie came out of the guest room with her bag and walked out the door. I know she heard everything because she did not say anything to us. None of that excuses it. Last month, Natalie told me she could not continue the relationship because she did not know how to deal with my condition. Those words went through me like the cold that started all of this. I am not angry at her for being honest. I am not angry at her for knowing her limits. What I am is devastated. I keep coming back to one question. Was 15 years not enough for her to stay and figure it out together? For those 15 years, my family paid for every trip Natalie took with us. She was treated like family. I thought marriage was for better, for worse. Why is she leaving when the hard part is here?
Why is she leaving now? The hard part is here. He did not ask that question to the jury. He asked it to himself. And that is a very different thing. Before you answer it on his behalf, you need to hear from the woman who left. Natalie came to the docket willingly. She did not need to be found. She did not need to be convinced. She walked through our doors because she has something to say. And she has been waiting for the right room to say it in. This is that room. The second voice speaks now.
I need to start with my father, because without my father, it is an incomplete story. My father had bone cancer. He was in agonizing pain for 3 years before he died. My mother was there for the first 4 months. Then her therapy appointments began to coincide with his treatment days every single time. Coincidence? I think not. I was in middle school. She sent me to sit with him during chemotherapy sessions because she could not face it. I sat with my father through a 1.5 years of chemotherapy. I watched treatment reduce him to someone I did not recognize. He could not hold himself upright. He could not control his body. He was constantly sick. And I mean constantly. The doctor said it had spread and had about 6 months. At best, even with aggressive treatments. My father sold his business before he died. He left me a trust fund currently worth $6 million that I got access to at 25 years. He left my mother maybe $10 million. My mother finally sent me to a therapist after his funeral. Not during the hard years I sat to watch him deteriorate right before my eyes. After. When she did not need someone to take her place as a devoted spouse, my relationship with my mother worsened after the funeral. I constantly felt like a bother. When she remarried, it was worse. Matthew and I became particularly close high school. I was looking for an escape from my mother and stepfather. His family was very welcoming. His family took trips every winter to warmer climates. My mother was more than willing to pay for my share, but his family declined. Matthew never told me he had sickle cell disease. Not once in 15 years. Not when we became a couple, not before I traveled with his family. Not before I asked him to come to New York in December. I did not know. In retrospect, there were things I should have paid more attention to. His family had twice yearly doctor appointments. I assumed they were health conscious. It never occurred to me that they were monitoring a serious genetic condition. No one ever mentioned it. Not Matthew, not his parents, not his sister. 15 years of closeness. And this was kept from me. After my recognition dinner, Matthew called his doctor and was told to go to the hospital. An ambulance came. I stayed behind to pack and followed him there. The moment I walked through those hospital doors, I was not in New York anymore. I was 16 years old again. The smell, the overhead announcements, the sounds of monitors, everything hit me at once, and I was back in that chair beside my father, watching someone I loved disappear inside a building that was supposed to help him. I tried to hold it together. I tried to be present. Matthew's family arrived, and I felt completely shut out. The providers would not speak to me because I was not family. His family was not sharing information with me. Matthew himself was giving me vague answers. I did not find out what was actually wrong with him until the third day. The third day, when I tried to ask questions, and the atmosphere became hostile. I went home and watched YouTube videos to understand what sickle cell disease was. That is how I learned about the condition of the man I had been with for 7 years. I am not someone who abandons people. I want to be clear about that. My trust fund is now $6 million. I was not with Matthew for his family's money. I was with him because I loved him and I considered myself a part of the family. After he was discharged, his family took a trip without me. For the first time in years, I was not included. I did not make a scene. I gave them space, but it stung in a way I did not know how to articulate. When I knew Matthew was coming back, I went to his apartment to surprise him. I let myself in and fell asleep in his guest room. While I waited, his entire family arrived. I was about to walk out and greet them when I heard his sister say, "I blame her. If she hadn't insisted you stay, you wouldn't have gotten sick." I stood in that room and listened to his family discuss how I had almost killed him. Not once, multiple times. From the sound of the conversation, this was not new. This had been said before. In other rooms, when I was not there to answer for myself. Matthew said nothing. Not one word in my defense. About 30 minutes in, he called my phone. It rang in the room. He walked in. He saw me. I believe in that moment he understood what I had heard. I do not know where I found the composure to do what I did next. I gathered my things. I walked into the living room, I looked his family in the eye, and I walked out. I did not say a word because if I had opened my mouth, I would have fallen apart. And I refused to fall apart in front of people who had just spent 30 minutes deciding I was responsible for what happened to the man I loved. I started therapy again. And in those sessions, I realized something I had been too afraid to admit. I cannot marry someone with a serious chronic illness. I know what that looks like. I have lived inside it. It took everything from me at an age when I should have been living my life. I am not saying Matthew would become my father. I am not saying sickle cell and bone cancer are the same thing, but the hospital triggered something in me that I cannot simply decide my way out of. I would have stayed. I want him to know that. Despite everything, the flashbacks, the exclusion, the family trip, the hostility at the hospital, I would have stayed. But I cannot stay for a man who did not tell me something this significant about himself. And I cannot stay for a man who stood in a room while his family blamed me for his illness and said nothing.
Two sides. One truth, somewhere, as always, in the wreckage between them. Let us begin with what is not in dispute. Matthew has sickle cell disease. He did not tell Natalie, not in 7 years of a relationship, not in 15 years of friendship. He managed the condition well enough that it became, in his words, a background detail. He did not experience it as deception. I have one question then. If it was a background detail, why did the twice-yearly checkup happen? The record also shows he was wrong about that. When Natalie walked into that hospital, she did not walk in as a stranger to suffering. She walked in as a woman who had spent a year and a half watching her father dissolve inside a medical system that could not save him. She walked in carrying trauma she had never fully been allowed to put down, and she walked in with no warning, no context, no preparation, no knowledge of what she was about to be asked to face. Matthew did not give her any truth or context, and the docket notes, he had years to give it to her. He chose not to. Whatever his reasons, whatever the intention behind the silence, the consequence of that silence was that Natalie entered the worst moment of their relationship, completely unprepared for what it would ask of her. Now, the hospital. She was shut out, not by accident, systematically. The providers could not speak to her. His family did not speak to her. He gave her vague answers for 3 days. She learned about the condition of the man she loved from the internet. That is not a small thing. That is the experience of being made to feel like a stranger in a crisis that was also happening to her. And then, the apartment. The docket does not place blame on Matthew's family in this proceeding, but what was said in that room and a fact that Matthew did not speak. That silence is the weight this case turns on. He had already failed to tell her about his condition. He had already failed to include her in his family's recovery trip. And when his family blamed her, in front of him, for 30 minutes, he said nothing. 3 silences, 3 moments where she needed his voice, 3 moments where it did not come. Natalie says she would have stayed through all of it, the flashbacks, the exclusion, the hostility, if not for that silence. The docket believes her. This is not a case about a woman who left when things got hard. This is a case about a man who kept a significant secret, failed to advocate for his partner at the moment it mattered most, and is now asking why she could not find a way to stay. The answer to that question is in the silence. The docket moves to convict the first voice, but a motion is not a verdict. And in this court, the verdict has never belonged to me. It belongs to the jury. It has always belonged to the jury, and the jury is you. Deliberate. The comment section is your jury box. Argue your position. Challenge the other side. Place your vote in the poll below. This court has done its job. Now, do yours. Case number 1003. Adjourned. Before we adjourn, confirm your empanelment by hitting that subscribe button. Leave your verdict below. Share this case with a fellow juror. And I'll see you when court reconvenes.